Welcome to the Daily Tanya. Today is Monday, the 5th day of Iyar. Let's begin with Tzedakah. Tzedakah, Tzedakah, Shemekareves Esageula. Tzedakah brings Mashiach closer. And we continue in chapter 46. We started yesterday. The Rebbe tells us about the reciprocal love. The easier way of getting the feeling of love to Hashem by understanding how much Hashem loves us. And why this is easier, the Alter Rebbe explained, because this is really not something that we need to create through our meditation, through a deep understanding. It's there in the nature of human beings, that just like water reflects water, that they use the verse. When you smile, like you're looking in the mirror, you smile, the smile goes back. The same thing is the nature of people. When you think positively, think that you love another person, the other person will reciprocate with love. And this is true even if the other person doesn't really see it. Just the fact that you think about the other person in a loving way, the other person will feel it and will love you back. It'll create the circumstances to be able to love you back. Now, obviously, when you show the love, when the person sees the love, that will certainly help the other person to create the feeling of love in him. And this continues the Alter Rebbe now, saying that this is true with any person, people on the same level. But imagine, says the Alter Rebbe, imagine if a king shows love to a very lowly person. And the Alter Rebbe goes down in details to imagine. It tells you, imagine the king comes out of his palace. There's a person lying in the dirt, and the king comes with the whole entourage, with all of his ministers, and he personally comes to that person, and he invites him. He tells him to come with him. He lifts him up from the garbage, from the dirt, and invites him to come home with him. Not only to come home with him, but to come to his palace. Not only to his palace, but even to the private chambers, the private rooms where nobody is allowed. Imagine how much love that person would feel to the king. And Alter Rebbe goes on describing what he does. He hugs him and he kisses him. That person, even if he has a heart of stone, will melt with love towards that king. Let's see how the Alter Rebbe says this inside. V'hinei, says the Alter Rebbe, Zeu teva anog b'midas kol odam, afim shneim shovim b'mayla. Such is the common nature in the character of every man, even when they are equal in status. Even people that are equal in status, if one person shows love to the other person will reciprocate with love. V'halachas kama v'kama, so much more so. How much more so? Im melech godol v'rav mare ahavosei agdoilo v'hatzuma leishhedyoit v'nivze u'shfal anoshim u'menuva lamushtal b'hashpa. How much more so in the case? How much more so is this the case if a great and mighty king who rules over many lands displays his great and intense love for a commoner who is despised and lowly among men. Literally a person on a very, very low level person. A disgraceful creature cast on the dunghill, literally in the garbage. So the king depicted here rules not over one land, but over many. His love for the person is not only harbored in the heart, but is manifest. The manner of love is not ordinary, but great and intense. And the love is shown not to an ordinary person, but to a truly despicable character. So the Alter Rebbe goes on to state how his love is displayed. And it says, "V'yored eila mimokim kavodim kol sorov yachdav." Yet he, the king, comes down to him from the place of his glory, together with all his retinue, all the entourage of the king. Umekimoi, umerimoi, meashpasoi, umachnisoi leicholoi heichal hamelech, cheder lifnim cheder. He raises him and exalts him from his dunghill and brings him into his palace, the royal palace. And within the palace itself, he leads him in the innermost chambers. Mokim she'en kol eved v'sar nichnas l'sham, a place such as no servant nor lord ever enters. There's places that ministers enter, but not the servants. Places the servant enter, but not the ministers. Even the servant has to come clean, even in the more innermost rooms. But there is places where no one is allowed, only the king. And yet in that place, he invites that lowly person. And there shares with him the closest companionship, with mutual embraces and kisses and attachment of spirit to spirit, with the whole heart and soul. So when a mighty king shows such great affection and companionship to such lowly person, then how will a lowly person feel towards the king? Obviously, he will awaken with so much great love towards that king. Alachas kama v'kama shetis'oire mimele ahava kfula mechopeles beleiva hedye tushval anoshim hazeh el nefesh hamelech. How much more so will there be aroused of itself a double and redoubled love in the heart of this most common and humble individual for the person of the king. Biskashrus and nefesh mamish meleva nefesh me'umka deliba lein kates, with a true attachment of spirit from heart and soul, from the infinite depth of his heart. Concludes the Alter Rebbe, Ve'af im libei keleva even, himes yimas vehoya l'mayim. Even if his heart be like a heart of stone, and not easily roused to tender feelings of love for another, but in such a situation, it will surely melt and become like water. And his soul will pour itself out like water with soulful longing for the love of the king. So this is where the Shir, today's lesson, stops, the way the Frierdiker Rebbe set it up for today's Shir. And obviously we need to take it in. This imagery of the king that takes the lowly person and shows him so much love with all the details that the Alter Rebbe described. And tomorrow we continue with understanding how Hashem does exactly that to each and every one of us. That's the end of today's shir. A wonderful day. We'll see you, Hashem, tomorrow.